Imagine a vibrant discussion between people that includes both openness and critical thought in the pursuit of truth. The Purchasing Truth podcast is an experience, a journey, an exploration of the impact that negative messages in politics and the media have on our families, community, society, and nation. Join your hosts, Bill Stierle and Tom Hazard, to discover new concepts and language strategies that will reveal effective ways of establishing truth. This podcast series will tackle current events, leadership challenges, healthcare confusion, integrity in business, and many other areas that affect us all. Gain clarity and understanding of the various truth perspectives. Welcome to Purchasing Truth.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Purchasing Truth. I'm Tom Hazard, along with your host Bill Stierle. And Bill, it's very interesting news today from the Supreme Court that relates actually to the subject we were planning to talk about today.
Yes.
So I just want to briefly state what that news is and then move on to the main subject, and we'll come back to the Supreme Court a little bit later. And that is that the justices issued two rulings today regarding Donald Trump's tax returns. And, I'm obviously paraphrasing here. We'll have a link to an article with the details in the blog post at purchasingtruth.com. But that the justices decided that Trump must comply with subpoenas, not only from the House of Representatives, but also the Southern District of New York has the right to request his subpoenas. And he can argue that he doesn't have to comply with the subpoena, but he has to make the same arguments any other citizen of the United States would, right, that he gets no special privilege just because he's president. So this was a victory for the Southern District of New York and for the people of the United States, and not good news for Donald Trump. And on the Senate side, they are allowed to request his tax returns, but it has to be for a legitimate legislative purpose. So that's the quick headline on that. But it relates to what we wanted to talk about, which is how there was a very interesting article in the New York Times recently that suggested the Biden campaign, the Joe Biden for President campaign, should only agree to debate Trump, that Biden should only agree to debate Trump under two conditions. One, that Trump releases his tax returns as Joe Biden has done. And the second reason being that there be that both campaigns, the Joe Biden campaign and the Donald Trump campaign, agree to an independent fact-checking body or arbiter of truth, if you will, that will do some kind of real-time fact-checking either during or immediately following the debate. So the people watching
before the closing arguments, there needs to be a neutral person to come on and say, well, this is what Joe Biden said that was exaggerated, and this is what Donald Trump said that was exaggerated. And here are the things that were fully true, partly true, or whatever. And now for our closing statements from the candidates. In other words, to really frame truth before the closing statements, because you want the viewership to be there, and we want to actually get a sense of what that is. So this one is partially true. Well, the word partially is very, very difficult. I would prefer them to scale it. Yeah. On a scale as an independent consultant, on a scale of 1 to 100, being 100% true, this one is approximately a 30% truth ratio. In other words, this is not even close. It's 30% true. It's 70% false. This is 100% not true. This is the factual accuracy with that statement. In other words, we're having an independent, fact checker be ready to take the exaggerated statement of a master marketer and a master brander, which Trump is, and put it on the scale of things. It's sort of like, is this health bar healthy? Well, not with 48 grams of sugar, it isn't. You know, in other words, it says healthy on the package. It looks healthy. It's got all the picture of the vegetables. But the truth is, it's so loaded with sugar that whatever health that you think you have from the label is not inside the package. So that's the thing. Now, Tom, I'm so glad you brought this up, because when I read the article and I read it all the way through, and I said, this cannot be framed as a bribe or a deal. It can't be. It has to be built in a very different way, the argument. And all of a sudden your brain is going into slapping into curiosity. It's like, because it looks like, if you don't do this, I'm not going to do this.
Right. As an ultimatum. I don't know.
Right. That's the problem. It can't be framed as an ultimatum. It needs to be framed around basically 2 words, but as we get going, there's probably another 3 words that are going to follow that. It would sound like this. Integrity would look like having a fact checker. Fairness would look like, I put mine up, you put yours up. That's what fairness looks like. Because we do want to be fair to the American public, right? Now it's not a bribe or a deal. It's saying, I'm standing for fairness. It doesn't look like you're standing for fairness, so I'm not sure if you're qualified to be president. I'm not sure if you're qualified to be president, President Trump, because you don't know how to stand for fairness and you don't know how to stand for integrity.
Or you could advise the Biden campaign to say, or to advise Joe Biden to say in a speech, I don't know if Donald Trump is qualified to be on the same debate stage if he is not going to be in alignment with integrity and with fairness on these issues.
That's right. That's right. You put the qualifications around the values that we stand by. It's not about showing his taxes. It's about, what does truth look like when you look at the numbers, and what does clarity look like? And you're not qualified to debate me. I'm not going to debate you because you're not qualified to be a presidential debater. You can't do it.
I love that you use the word integrity, though, because I think that is one that I think would get, would motivate Trump to want to be in alignment with integrity. I would think he would not want to be open about saying, I have no integrity. No, of course I have integrity.
No, he's not. He'll never take that bait. He's going to go, he'll never take that, because he's got stuff to hide, and he's got respect and self-worth to protect. So his game is in the mediation conflict world that I live in, his game is a very easy game. It's, how do I get respect? How do I get recognition? How do I get acknowledgement? And how am I being heard above all else? That's it. And because I'm doing all those things, people need to pay me because I have these things. It's like, first off, you don't really fully have respect. You really fully don't have a list of acknowledgement and recognitions that you can hang your hat on. But you do know how to sell things. And you do know how to sell language that, as at best, doesn't have truth or meaning in it. And you've even trained your people around you not to say anything of meaning that can be held to anything. Anderson Cooper just did a little piece on this. It's like, this is what they said, but those words together really don't work. He goes, leadership, that's not leadership. It was a leadership. Well, this is what a confident leader looks like. That's not what a confident leader really looks like. So Anderson Cooper is feeling doubtful and skeptical about truth, and he's calling out the language of his messengers, going like, this is not this language that these leaders and these people that are following, or these people that are being the spokespeople for this, their need for integrity is taking a dip because they can't be truthful and they can't be straightforward with bad news. Trump is not a bad news guy. So he won't go, he'll bristle and he'll get angry behind and yell at other people that no one will see, as if we don't have enough reports out of the White House already that he does that. He yells and screams at people. I want it done my way. Yes, Mr. President. It's like, yikes. So how to be able to have a powerful conversation and make a statement that sticks?
Well, so that's a good point. Statement that sticks. Let's hold there for a sec, because
Sure.
I hope the Joe Biden campaign is listening, or at least, getting a Google alert, because this is really important. The thing about messages that stick, this New York Times article came out really proposing a requirement, some sort of arrangement, which honestly, I don't think anybody really expects the Trump campaign to really take seriously or to agree to. They hope they will, but if you were the Biden campaign, would you advocate for and advise them to talk about this in a way to actually try to get the Trump campaign to agree to it? Or do you just advise them to use language to talk about these issues as a way to have a message that does stick and have some impact?
It doesn't. Trump is already ready they're already working on counter messaging for both things. They're already working on counter messages for if he debates or if he doesn't debate. See, do I think the Biden campaign is working on counter messages one way or another? No, they're reactive. They're way reactive right now. How do I know this? Because there's no anchoring statements coming out from Biden on his tweets or anything like that. What does trust look like in America? What does justice look like in America? What does fairness look like in America? You've got to build a series of anchorable statements that have a measurable impact, so the soundbite carries. But there's nothing that's built upon it. You've got to allow the listener to fill in a valuable message underneath the message. The listener's got to fill it in.
It's almost like the Biden campaign is playing it safe and counting more on Trump being Trump and alienating more voters, and that they can just, run out the clock on this election and win more on a reaction to get rid of Trump than on a reaction to be for Biden. And they could change that.
Every candidate thought Trump was done when he came down the escalators and called Mexicans murderers and rapists. Everyone called him he's done. His
politically done before he started, right?
Done before he started. He's done. What wound up happening is that was just the start of the multiple messages of distraction. That was just the first one. So he just, in a good branding campaign, all you need is like a half dozen sentences that people remember, and you can recirculate them. Watch this. I got a bunch of these. Where's the beef? What's the product?
Wendy's
What's the product?
hamburger. Yeah.
Right. All it says, and that there hasn't been an ad campaign for years on that. Where's the beef?
No, that was in the 80s.
I know. and it's still in both
It's
of our
stuck.
heads.
Yeah, it's stuck. Oh my
Okay,
goodness.
you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Hit me with another.
Oh my gosh. 15 minutes
Can save
could
you
save
15% or more on car insurance. It's Geico. Yeah, of course. And I'm not a Geico customer. I mean,
right. A brand message is an enrolling message. And in government, see, government was never meant to sell stuff. It was never meant, it was to provide the foundation for capitalists to sit on top of. It's never meant to sell, because if that were true, the EPA would be selling how many lives that they saved because of the environmental protections they put in place. That's why they're exposed. The CDC would be selling the good reasons why they're the best, one of the best research places, not ones that do really good research, find out the facts, and then have to rewrite the facts because the political person in charge doesn't follow the, or doesn't know how to sell the facts. You got to be able to sell bad news as well as sell good news, and Trump doesn't want to sell bad news. He just wants to sell good news, and I'm going to make up the good news even if it damages or kills people. We're going to be 200,000. We're going to be at 200,000 dead by November 1st. We're another 70,000 deaths in America before November 1st. I looked at the charts; they're going up.
yeah, they are. Well, and the
winter's coming.
And the deaths are lagging behind the number of cases. I mean, that's just the way it goes. The number of cases is just out of control right now.
It's crazy. The emergency room bed, the ICU. The hospitals. The scary honesty on this is hospitals need to add another wing of ICU to cover what's going to show up in December and January. This is the winter of death, is what we're walking into. Well, I looked at the charts. It's really disturbing. It's disturbing.
It is disturbing because right now in Florida, Texas, and Arizona in particular, there already have reached or have almost reached capacity of ICU beds. So, and
Florida.
Oh no, it's really sad. Yeah. Well, let's stay. That's maybe a discussion for another episode. Let's stay focused on the
agreed. I'm ranting because because I'm exasperated. I'm exasperated about communication, because this is a communication show. As I've said multiple times, it's like, how do you communicate better? Is that, how do you manage the emotion through language? So exasperated because my need for truth isn't being met, or exasperated because my need for awareness or skill or mastery in leadership, they don't know what they're saying. And the limited things that are being said, which puts them in a defensive position. And being in a defensive position, all of a sudden, the person that's being criticism says, you're being defensive. The person who automatically says, no, I'm not, which is defensive. No, I'm not. I'm proving you wrong. It's like, no, you're not. I have the facts. I know what's right over here. It's like, oh my gosh, it's like two 8th graders arguing with each other. See, the biggest thing is that an 8th grader that's a bully, which is a 13-year-old, 12, 13-year-old, in that space, 13, they don't have enough languaging skills to deal with an adult. And the adult has got to tolerate them and be empathetic to them at the same time as saying, you can't talk like that. That's not really respectful. That's not respectful, right? And then all of a sudden they become defensive. Yeah, but and then they're in the defensive position, which is where Trump, no one paints him into that corner the way we need to. I mean,
well, to me, that's one of the interesting things, because while this article suggests that the Joe Biden campaign for president just, propose these requirements if they're going to agree to debates, the reality is, well, there's two realities I'm thinking about. One is that if the Biden campaign got some counsel and helped Joe develop some skills in how to properly talk about these things or debate Trump, he wouldn't need to require these fact checkers at the debate, and wouldn't need to require that the tax returns be released, in alignment with fairness. He could still win a debate without having those things there. Would you agree?
He would, if he had skill enough to be able to use language to allow truth to come forward. Because right now, they're trying to prove and convince. These two language strategies are failing strategies. Otherwise, the news media would have ran over Trump a long time ago. Because when you come into a person's belief, their bias and their fallacies, which we've talked about on this show, the person's going like, I'm going with the person I voted because that's the person I voted with and I want him to lead. And so you can find people that will be a staunch advocate. Mr. President, you're right about sending kids back to school, because kids need to be in school because it's socially valuable for them. That is a mono need-based communication. And no one's going to disagree with that, because that was the school system that we bought into. The best way that Biden could show up in the world right now would be saying something like, the need for safety is very important to us. And if there were a way for the need for safety to be met for kids to go back, I think the president wanting the kids to go back would be a great idea. Regrettably, the need for safety can't be met. And I'm guessing that it's up to the parents and up to the governors to decide on whether or not the need for safety can be met inside their communities. I'm guessing the decision's on them. And if he was going to make it harder for them by withdrawing funding, I think he's just making it harder on the state and harder on the families if he was to do that. I think that doesn't seem like it's really a very thought out leadership position. I'm feeling doubtful and skeptical about him leading with this current decision making that he's making. It's a little limited the way he's talking right now. Now, notice how much doubt and skepticism I'm creating about the leadership of him not, well, we kind of know that he doesn't really think things out fully, and we've seen some examples of that by some of the decisions he's made. Oh, yeah, look at the debt. It's interesting that when you give a tax cut that the debt goes up. Yeah, I don't think that was the strongest leadership. I can see that it benefited a bunch of rich people, but I don't think it benefited the United States or our economy. It's interesting, the narrow-mindedness of that decision. Now, I did use a label there for all those people that are keeping track, and I wouldn't recommend that, not necessarily unless it was placed in a place that made it memorable and gave.
Yeah, unless it was a where's the
needs.
beef moment. Yeah.
Unless it's the where's the beef moment, because then all of a sudden it creates the simplicity of the sound bites that, Tom, that you and I have talked about in the past, right? It's like the sound bite's got to be easily digested, not something that you need to explain to a person over and over again.
Right.
And then that's the thing that's going to stick the landing. That's the thing that's going to allow the memorable things. So in 10 years, Tom, you and I will be able to say the phrase drain the swamp and realize that the swamp was really the lobbyists. It wasn't the politicians. The swamp was how money has influence to put underskilled people in the infrastructure that we need to run a capitalist society. They're literally breaking the foundation underneath the walls that capitalism is sitting on, and it is so short-sighted, it's exasperating. And because it's not in alignment with truth, it's in alignment with messaging and what's going to stick.
Well, so now, sort of in the spirit of what's going to stick, let's pivot a little bit back to the Supreme Court and have a discussion about what Trump's game plan has been, really his, not only his entire presidency and his entire campaign for president, but really most of his career. I mean, him not providing his tax returns is just one example of him running out the clock on the legal powers that be. And really what's happened with the Supreme Court decision today is they're saying, President Trump, you cannot get away from the long arm of the law as president. The law applies to you too. But there's this other interesting concept of the short arm of the law. And here's where Trump is winning. So, Bill, can you help lead us into this discussion?
Yeah, and the short arm of the law is that I can break the law. I can get caught by stealing one thing. Like if you get in a place and you steal something and you get out and it's not detected, you got away with something. And the law, might not care about it because it's not like that big of a deal, right? But if you come back to that store and you dip in there a few more times, or you come back to that bank account and come in there a little more, if you fix loans or you do X, Y, Z, and it causes a various different cascade of things, well, that tends not to really go so well. So one of the things that money and wealth provides is the ability to either run away from things, stall them, or more importantly, just pay it. Just pay it, because I got so much value out of the thing that I made a mess of that the pittance that you made me pay was like no big deal. So no big deal. So and companies do this with Superfund sites at all times. A Superfund site is, here is this polluted area in our nation. Some company through commerce and through the capitalist system polluted this environment. There was no check or awareness or scientific data that was responsible, but they did pollute it. And so instead of cleaning up the mess, which the court ordered them to do, they just pay the fine, walk away, and leave the government holding the bag, going like, now we gotta cover the back half of this Superfund. We got to clean this up for this company, that these folks that were out of integrity and out of ethics for the city. We gotta cover their stuff. And the government has been doing stuff like that, for a lot of years. And they've been covering the need for integrity and ethics that have not been met with many companies that pick this strategy. It is a financial strategy. Now, it's not to say the need for financial security isn't really valuable for a company. And the short arm of the law is that it's, with the news cycle, is the law can't grab onto his ankle anymore. There's no one that's accountable. So the law there's nobody to arrest him for making a mistake anymore, because the accountability regarding impeachment and the accountability regarding the next level of accountability regarding voting is going to be taken away.
Well,
now I'm not being that things, but there's ways to mitigate voting: shorter lines, closing down voting booths,
sure.
Keeping paper ballots in a room and not counting them.
So, okay, so let's bring this into some context here. Is that you have the president today, he's been trying to prevent his personal financial records, his tax returns from coming out. He fought this all the way to the Supreme Court and said he shouldn't have to give them up because he's president. I'm not going to go into the details of why, but it's distracting, all sorts of other things. He needs to focus on running the country. Supreme Court said, no, that's not a valid reason. You have the same rights as any other citizen of the United States. But what that did is send this back to the lower courts for decision. So the reality is, all these people who hoped we're going to see his tax returns before the next election, guess what? Get ready for some disappointment, because it won't happen. Now his tax returns will eventually likely need to be given to the prosecutors in the Southern District of New York, and may very well be needed to be given to the committees in the House of Representatives, but it will take place after the election, just because it takes this much time to work through all of the legal hurdles and details that the Supreme Court has said, here's a checklist for how you're going to do this. Here's what you got to do. And so, while Trump lost today, and you might say he's
lost so many times. He's lost so many times and bounced back. He's like worse than one of those inflatable clowns. I mean, that, like those little things you punch and they come back. It is like worse than that. You can hit as hard as you want. The damn thing keeps coming back, and the only way to hold it accountable is to push on the metaphor, is let the air out of the clown. Let the air out of it. Empathy and compassion can do that. It creates a level of accountability that is unseen by most people, which is, here's what justice looks like. And this is what I'm standing for justice. Here's what fairness looks like. And I'm going to stand for fairness. Immediately, you're having more of an adult narrative. Here is what respect for the nation and respect for a fellow citizens look like. Yeah. I have respect for Donald Trump. I clearly do. Why? He can message, market, distract. I respect and recognize that skill and ability. I don't think it's healthy for the nation. I don't think it's healthy in a public service job. But he applied it to this place, and he got put in charge of leadership of this place, and he kind of running it in a way that, well, it doesn't meet my need for respect, and it doesn't meet the need for justice and fairness. He's not making any attempt to unite the country. So I think the next time we got to really talk about how money creates choices, how that these different values get purchased differently because of how money is inside the system. And I think that there's some really good places to go. And like Tommy said, there's other resources on the website and things that people can get a hold of to listen more about how communication can be used effectively here.
Definitely. Yeah. And so to sort of wrap this one up, the interesting thing is Trump may never not escape the long arm of the law, which is eventually his tax returns will see the light of day. They will get them, and we may all someday know. But the short arm of the law is, hey, guess what? He's getting away with running out the clock on the election and not having to reveal those things before people vote.
Right. Yeah, that's for sure. All right. Well, more to come on this. Hopefully there's a little more skill and mastery in the Biden campaign on communicating more effectively with counter messaging, because stuff is not sticking, regrettably,
Yeah. Okay, Bill. Thanks so much.
All right, buddy. Take care. All right. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this Purchasing Truth podcast. We trust that you have enjoyed this engaging and thought-provoking conversation. Our hope is that you've received value, found clarity, and broadened your truth perspective in this episode. If you did, leave us a review or visit our website, purchasingtruth.com. Join us again for another informative and content-rich discussion here at the Purchasing Truth podcast. Don't just accept whatever information comes your way. Join the discussion. Discover your own voice. Purchase your own truth.